from the head of state who is not only smart and savvy, but is also someone who's going to fight for and take care of the needs of all of the constituencies in this country. So when I listened to Carly Fiorina during the Republican debate, and there's no question that she's a smart and capable person, when I listened to her say the things that she said about women and about minorities and other people in this country and how one gets ahead, what one needs, and the way that she misrepresented herself, it was painful to watch. And so I think that my message is that the focus on gender and on identity politics just can't subsume the need to have somebody who is extraordinarily capable.
And I guess when we talk about bonus points, it doesn't really come into play for many people if we're talking about candidates who are really opposed to your beliefs. Like Fiorina and Clinton are so different on so many things. We played the $10 bill clip, the famous clip of Fiorina that everybody knows now because it's been repeated in the media a million times, is her factually untrue but very caustic rant against Planned Parenthood. And so those are differences on issues. And then one that didn't even come up on Wednesday but that she's talked about before is that Fiorina disagrees with Clinton on the idea of mandatory paid family leave, right? Hillary Clinton is proposing that there be an act of Congress that guarantees some amount of paid family leave for all workers each year, and Fiorina disagrees with that. Well, that reminds me of how Christine Quinn, though she was set up to be the first woman and first openly gay mayor of New York City, did not win either the gay vote or the women's vote against Bill de Blasio in the primary, partly because she had the less female-friendly, as it was perceived, position on paid sick leave. That's such a women's issue, paid sick leave, and de Blasio was pushing it, and she was bottling it up in city council. So they were different on the issues. Fiorina and Hillary Clinton are so different on the issues. So there the bonus points don't come into play so much. But Hope, I guess where it does come into play would be, let's say, for Democrats who are weighing Clinton against Bernie Sanders, or if Biden were to get in. And then, well, for people who I more or less basically agree with, but maybe I would like the guy a little bit more in some ways, but then I give the woman the bonus points for being a woman and what that might carry into office. How do you, in that kind of a matchup, how would you see it?
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that, for me and, as somebody born in the early 60s, and for many people who are my peers and my relatives who are just a little bit older than me, or my mother, I think that for people that I know, I'm a physician, professional class people, we do very much feel that in those circumstances, I would give bonus points to a capable, smart woman who was ideologically and politically similar to me. And I think that comes from a lot of life experience of being in work situations, professional situations, and community situations where being, or trying to get stuff done as a woman has been challenging.
Hope, thank you very much, and thanks to all of you who called on this segment. We have made our phone connection now to the Serbia-Croatia border, and after this break, we'll talk to our BBC correspondent guest from there about the latest in the refugee crisis and also the reaction there to Secretary of State Kerry announcing that the United States will take in more refugees than we had previously announced. It'll be 100,000 in total over the next year, he says, which is up 30,000 from what had been U.S. policy. We'll see how much they think that's making a difference, and if that's enough from a European perspective as they grapple there, country by country, with how many of the millions, and apparently it is actually in the millions, of refugees from Syria as that country empties out as much as people can find a way to leave in the midst of the horrible civil war there. So stay with us, Brian Lehrer on WNYC.
In New York City, 1 in 10 teenagers report being abused by their partners in the past year, but they don't tend to talk about it much.
It's not like you wake up one day like, yo, Instagram, my boyfriend abused me last night. It was crazy. Nobody talks about domestic violence like that.
Young women reveal how abusive relationships affect their lives. Listen to Crushed, Teens and Dating Abuse, a Radio Rookie series, today on All Things Considered.
WNYC receives support from Capital One Commercial Bank, a team of professionals providing customized commercial banking solutions to meet clients' needs. More information available at CapitalOne.com/commercial. Hospital for Special Surgery. Appointments are also now available at outpatient centers in Bergen, Nassau, Queens, and Fairfield counties. Learn more at hss.edu. The New York Review of Books, a journal of ideas. The current issue includes Ian Fraser on the Oregon Trail, Joyce Carol Oates on Joan Didion, and for the first time, a T.S. Eliot review of Alfred North Whitehead on newsstands and at nybooks.com.
Today on the Leonard Lopate Show, hear about Donald Trump's journey from real estate developer to presidential hopeful. Plus, Saturday Night Live directors Rhys Thomas and Alex Buono talk about their comedic tributes to famous documentaries in the new IFC series, Documentary Now. That's today at noon on WNYC. Brian Lehrer on WNYC now to BBC correspondent Gavin Lee covering the refugee crisis in the town of Tovarnik at the Croatia-Serbia border. Thank you very much for coming on WNYC, Gavin. Hello from New York.
Hello, Brian. Good morning.
To start right where you are, what's happening at that border right now?
Well, it's been an extraordinary few days. I'm talking to you from a border town called Tovarnik, and this is where every day for the past 6 days there have been 5,000 migrants and refugees pouring in from Serbia, cornfields, to a town called Chid. About 2 kilometers, they're dropped off in a convoy of taxis in coaches as well. So they pay to go from Belgrade, and of course this journey starts in Greece, and one day, of course, the 5,000, the next day the 5,000 going to the next country towards Northern Europe. So what we've seen here in Tovarnik for the past few days is the newest migrant camp spring up. It was, and the Croatian governments were overwhelmed, absolutely caught by this. And what happened was, we saw at the train station, which is where the migrants were walking through at the other side of the cornfield, there were 10,000, 11,000 migrants on one day alone, and they were basically to try to bust them. The Croatian government decided to bust them to the Hungarian border, because remember, a few days ago, the Hungarian government decided to finish its wall with Serbia and said, we will not accept any migrants. It will become illegal to do so. So these migrants have been coming through this area, and I can't tell you the chaos here. I've covered this crisis, Brian, from Greece, from Malta, from Italy, all the way into to Budapest, all around Europe. There hasn't been a refugee camp or a makeshift one like it anywhere else, in terms of just lack of sanitation, lack of water, the frustration. Over 100 people collapsed on Friday with heat exhaustion and dehydration in the heat. It was 36 degrees. Now, why I say it's extraordinary...
That's Celsius, so that's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, I'm just translating into Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. And there's a slight delay on the line, so bear with me. But essentially, we've got a scenario now where the government have acted very quickly. In the past few hours, in fact overnight, they have built a new camp. The military said they've done this in less than 24 hours. Huge military tents, capacity of 4,000 people. They are busing people about 20 kilometers to this new camp. They spend 48 hours there, and then they are bused to the Hungarian border to continue their journey to their favoured destination. The idea is that they get water, they get showers, and they can eat. And so in the space of a few hours, the Croatian government believes that it's got the situation relatively under control. But as I'm talking to you, in the cornfields in the distance, Brian, I can see more migrants coming through. There is even some refugees in the distance who are walking barefoot.
Unbelievable. And I see you have a piece of tape for us of one of the refugees you interviewed. Do you want to set this up?
Yeah, let me explain this. This is a microcosm of the bigger situation. Now, this is a train station where you've got 5,000 people in and out of the station. If you can imagine the scene, they're lying on the train lines, on the street, a residential village in this town called Tavernik. You have riot police in the past 2 days that lined up flanking people, saying on the megaphone repeatedly 2 by 2 to get them onto the coaches. Now the coaches, because the government were overwhelmed, were only coming every hour or so, say 1-2 coaches carrying 100 people, but 5,000, Brian, they were there for 2 days. So what I did was I spent some time with the paramedics, and they were going from case to case because people were collapsing in the heat. And this is what happened when I followed a team of paramedics 2 days ago.
The situation this mess is horrible. I don't know why it's happened. The huge number of people make this mess here. It's been 7 days. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. We don't know what we can do. Really, Europe opens the doors, but now it's closing the door. We're stuck here. I'm come from Turkey.
Have you been told what will happen next? Where you're going to go? Whether you can go on from here?
I don't know. I hope to continue my way to Germany or to another country. Any country I accept. Just accept me as a refugee.
And listeners, if you want to call in and talk to Gavin Lee from the BBC covering the Syrian refugee crisis in Eastern Europe today at the Serbia-Croatia border, 212-675-6329. If you have a question for him, 212-675-6329. Gavin, is there a particular reason that the refugees, in this case, want to go to Croatia, or is it that they're spreading out from the Middle East to every corner of Europe, and that happens to be one of them right now?
There was a week ago, just to put this in context, there were just a trickle of migrants and refugees, 300 on average a day. And already the government was saying that they weren't used to anything like this, because if we rewind for the whole of last year, there were 2,500 migrants that entered Croatia. Bear this in mind, in 6 days there have been 30,000, so more than 10 times the amount in the whole year of last year. The reason is because the stream of migrants, and it's quite incredible to see how they move and how they flow. They've been going through this one set route, which is no longer from Libya into Italy, and even those I've met here from Eritrea and from Nigeria, from Ghana, economic migrants as well, not just those fleeing war zones, coming actually a longer way around through Turkey because of Daesh, so-called Islamic State, IS. They're avoiding Libya altogether, going through Turkey, Greece to Macedonia, Serbia, into Hungary. Now, when Hungary put up its fence last week and said that if people would breach that, they would face potentially a prison sentence, all of a sudden the route changed. Now, what's extraordinary about this, Brian, is because the technology, the smartphones, we're talking about wealthy families from Damascus, from Idlib, Aleppo in Syria, who are connected to WhatsApp, social networking sites like Viber. They work out who's got where are the police lines. They look at GPS, so they're following people ahead of them on the journey. And also, I was with a group of teenagers, 16 to 18, a group of 5 teenagers traveling on their own. They'd run out of money completely. While we were with them, they called up their mother in Damascus, who wired them, who sent them money via Western Union on an app on their mobile phone, 600 euros to continue their journey. And that's one thing about this crisis. The technology has astounded me, how it's allowed this free flow of movement.
How about Albania, which is a majority Muslim country and might be more culturally hospitable in that respect? I haven't seen Albania in the headlines over here.
Well, Albania is making headlines, particularly in Europe, in Germany, and I think for the reason that there is a big counter movement in Germany to the you're welcome here signs that we've seen in some of the German stations of Angela Merkel's step to say we could have an open door policy, and up until we heard that limit had pretty much been reached and they were under pressure. And I just let one of the buses go by at the moment. These are the buses going from the camp here at Tavernik to take some of the migrants to the other camp I was saying, to relieve the pressure here. But just going back to the point in Albania, Germany this year are expecting 1 million migrants and refugees. 40% that have arrived so far are from Albania. And the big sort of right-wing concern in Germany is leading to some National Front type groups, right-wing groups, is that they are going to continue to bring in economic migrants who are wanting better wages, are following the flow of Syrians. And the other thing that I've seen that struck me is how many people in the queue that I've seen, in some of the lines of people flowing through, have fake Syrian passports because Syrian people get fast-tracked. I've seen Ghanaians with a Syrian passport here. I've seen those that look certainly Eastern European with the same because they know they will get preferential treatment. It doesn't always work, but it's certainly a noticeable issue.
Olivia in Rye Brook, you're on WNYC with Gavin Lee from the BBC at the Serbia-Croatia border. Hello, Olivia.
Hi, Brian. I just called in to say, and I don't know, I am hearing the tension and the anxiety in the reporter's voice in Europe, and I feel that here, that every day we are hearing more and more disastrous stories about these poor people who are trying to get away from the terror that they're going through from various different countries. I think the Syrian story has touched us immensely, and I feel personally an incredible frustration on the ground. Like here, how can we directly do something to make these people's lives better in a shorter period of time? I know the U.S. has spoken out, and I think that's great that they're going to be able to take more refugees here. And I'm nervous saying this, but I feel that we as a country precipitated a lot of what's going on in Europe right now. And I think we need to speak out a lot more loudly and a lot faster to help some of these families that desperately need it. And I mean, I was Googling this morning online, what's the bet before you even did this segment like an hour or two ago? How can I as a person living in suburban New York State help more directly rather than, I know I can send a check or send something to a large charity organization, but I think many people throughout the world want to reach out and lift these people up and give them a much faster way of making a new life. And I know that many people are worried about the potential risks of who's trying to get into another country that might be someone who wants to do us harm, not just the US, but all over the world. But you know what? We have homegrown terrorists here anyway, in places that want to do us harm.
And in fact, one of the response that politicians who agree with you that we should take in more of these Syrian refugees are giving to that concern about terrorists coming in is that there seems to be a bigger problem of people who grew up here wanting to go over there and join the fight. And getting trained over there and coming back.
And we have to ask, why is that? Why
Indeed.
is that?
Olivia, thank you so much for weighing in.